Oh man, it's really difficult. I don't know why I'm filming this now again, but now it's really difficult to have anything to say. This is wonderful, this walking in this environment, and when there's no sense of my past and problems that need to be dealt with, when the sense of self is gone, like at least when the historical sense of self, the normal mundane me, I'm this guy with this history, when that's gone, this beauty can really be appreciated. But this beauty is also transient, so this will not stay, this greenery and the blue sky. Like, for example, when the body walks inside a building, there is no blue sky anymore. But the feeling of wonderfulness can still be there though. And wondrousness. And it's somehow apparent, even now, that this is heaven actually. Or this is the divine reality, the only divine reality, which is infinite. But that doesn't mean, unfortunately, that there couldn't still be things that are experienced as for me, let's say, like for me there is still reactivity around certain things, like which is normal, I think. I'll go here. So the reactivity has to do with certain noises when trying to sleep, and there's like irritation and stuff like that, and like deep feeling of frustration at times, but only when there's reactivity to the noise. When there's not when it's not being reacted to, like the mind can kind of relax around it, and it's not inherently an issue actually. It's not so loud that it would actually prevent sleep, but it's like, I'm just talking about my so-called my issues here, but it's like water torture almost. It's an intermittent noise that comes from the road nearby, I think. But when I put on the earplugs, it sounds like somebody's pressing some buzzer. It doesn't sound like a tire sound or anything. It sounds like a buzzer that is really annoying. It's like bzz, 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 bzz. It's not even like ongoing bzz. That would be even more bearable, but it has to be like bzz, 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 like that all the time. The body has to be pretty tired to be able to sleep. So yeah, there's reactivity around that, so things are transient in that sense. But if there wasn't reactivity around it, it wouldn't be experienced as hellish suffering, which it can be experienced as. And of course, I mean, the sane option, which I'm looking into now, is to move somewhere better. But anyway, this video wasn't about complaining, or I didn't mean to complain or anything, but I guess there is a point there. So the point is, everything is transient. This beautiful weather right now and this late springtime or early summer will not last. It will change. There will be rain, more wind. It will be more cold. And in the long run, who knows what's going to happen to this area, for example. This might all get, or eventually this all will get kind of destroyed maybe, or transformed into something totally unrecognizable. So that's the transience of life. But at the same time, there is only now. There's only the now, meaning the direct, immediate, what is appearing to happen, which is this right now. And this couldn't appear without awareness. Even the video or the audio could not appear if awareness wasn't the case. Already? And whenever attention is withdrawn, so to speak, nobody withdraws anything, but, so to speak, when attention is not in the personal stories, and there's no hypnosis or a trance around the me and my concepts and the me and my idea, then everything is kind of raw. Also, like the painful feelings that have been kept up by certain thoughts, when those thoughts are not bought into anymore, the energy that had to do with the so-called painful feelings, that can still come up. It's as if there is some kind of a warehouse or something from where they appear to come, and then they are just fully felt and they're released by themselves in a way. But I had a point. I meant to say something else, but now I forgot. There was a point to that. Yeah, so everything is kind of fully felt when it appears. And it's possible for there to not be resistance to the certain energies and feelings. And that also means that when those feelings are not appearing, those so-called old karmic feelings are not coming up, then, like here in the meantime, so to speak, it's not a time or anything, but, so to speak, the wellness or the at-homeness is self-evident and it's felt. The beauty, the goodness, the bliss is not just an empty concept, even though it is a concept also, but the concept, as a concept, it is an empty concept, but that concept seems to refer to something that is directly apprehended, or I don't know what the word is, felt or something. Although that doesn't mean that there is a separate feeler. It's not a feeling in that sense, the bliss or the feeling of paradise, which is not a feeling. I don't know how else to describe it. Okay, I cannot go from here. Turn around. So when the mind is quiet, although it doesn't have to be, and it cannot be forced to be quiet, there will be problems if there's trying to force it. If there's some kind of a practice that like forcefully restricts thoughts and stuff, that will actually create pressure in a way, and then there will be an explosion at some point, or something like a stagnation in life. But when everything is just let be and the me and my concepts are not touched, and when there's not even the sense of separate awareness, like as a body or as a separate experiencer, when there's just this, which is always actually the case. Again, I forgot at this spot. This is a joke, but there is an energy field here that makes one forget. I'll say it again, or I will continue the sentence when I remember. Not sentence, but a point or a point. So the mind can, so-called mind, the chatter in the head and the buzzing and whatever, the feeling of static that is not usually noticed, but the static can end, and the mind gets quiet by not by trying to restrict thoughts, but more. This has to do with the awareness, though. When there's awareness of the mind chatter, and then seeing the mind chatter as empty, and even there's the seeing of the sense or the idea that I am the seer, when that is also seen as an empty thought, as just more mind chatter, then that whole system that keeps up the illusion that there is someone separate here, suffering and enjoying and controlling and choosing and talking and blah blah blah, then that kind of loses its hypnosis. And then in time, or maybe suddenly too, the mind gets quiet. That whole thing, the whole system gets quiet. And when there's just quietness, there's no chatter going on. The beauty is felt. That kind of determines if it can be felt or not. But again, it cannot be forced. And in a way, there is a ever-present background awareness, like a movie screen. This life is like a movie playing on a screen, in some sense. And the screen itself doesn't. The screen itself does not become noisy, nor does it become quiet. It's beyond that duality, which at the screen is this awareness that is hearing these words, that is not owned by anyone or by anything, and there is nothing prior to this awareness that is hearing these words. And the screen, i.e. the awareness, it doesn't become dim. For example, if the light in the movie, if there's a scene where there is a night or dark indoors, that doesn't affect the screen. And if there's a scene where there's a lot of noise and a lot of light, like explosions and stuff, that also doesn't affect the screen. And all the stuff that is shown in the movie, that's the transience. It's ever changing, ever vibrating. But awareness couldn't even be said to be a vibration, actually. If you ask me, that's my intuition, so to speak, or understanding. Although this doesn't really have to do ultimately with an understanding. Like, awareness doesn't have to understand anything to be. But there actually kind of does need to be apparent understanding to, well, for the show to appear a certain way. There can be a show of suffering or the show of absence of suffering. But I don't know if that's put in the right way. Because when there's the true absence of suffering, then I don't think it can be said to be a show anymore in a way. Although things still appear, and in that sense, like visually and audio stuff and all that, smells and feeling of wind against the skin, that could be said to be an appearance also. So in a way that's a show, but by show it's usually meant that the show is me and my life, having to do with some character, some me, some person that doesn't actually exist. Normally the thoughts, they appear to refer to some I and some me that's in the body, but the body is actually without any choosership or doership or any separate controller. It's just, everything is just in a way automatically happening without a doer. Always, even when the thoughts seem to be referring to me as the body or something in the body, even then there is no such a me. There is no such an experiencer or a controller. That's an empty story. And this moment, which is always the case, it's always this moment. It's never some other moment in a way. This moment can be enjoyed in a way by not fixating on the future of what is happening to me as a body, or what's going to return to me as a displeasant or unpleasant experience. That's also a mental image based on an image of or a memory of past occurrences of unpleasant things. So when those are not appearing, this moment is deeply enjoyed. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And even though it is probably the case that there will be pain in the near future, even some suffering, that so-called future suffering doesn't have to be suffered now. And it doesn't mean that some action couldn't be taken, like moving out or whatever the issue is, a seeming issue, or apparent issue, let's say. So why spoil life? Life is always now, and there's no need to, right now there's no need really to worry about something, anything really. That's kind of, that kind of mental pollution, it also pollutes the seeming surroundings and so-called other minds. Like suffering, in a way, suffering spreads. Suffering tends to spread due to the reactivity and the self-image, due to so-called self-protection, which is actually false in a way. Not in all situations. Like the body has to protect itself in order to survive and stay comfortable enough. But usually it's based on the self-protection is usually based on the self-image, which is false. The me image, or the me image web, like web of images and ideas and sensations. It's kind of like a web with no center. There's actually no me at the center. It's just different kinds of memories and projections of future and ideas and imagination and reactivity and beliefs. I thought I'm not able to speak, but apparently these are just coming. Following the flow, the thought flow, metaphorically speaking. I try not to film people too much. And there can be horror and terror as well. But the painfulness or the degree of shock, that seems to depend on the mental energetic reactivity to the situation or the sudden change in things, sudden unexpected unwanted, that is kind of like it's been like a dormant thing that is deeply unwanted. But it hasn't been up in like conscious awareness, but then when it happens, then it comes up. I mean, the resistance comes up. There's a certain kind of a mental perception of how it should not be happening, how it's wrong. Whatever it is, it can be like death of a spouse or something. Or war. Or some sudden, very serious illness that will kill the body. If there hasn't been if it hasn't been thought about or contemplated, that like the transient nature of life, if death has always been kind of like put away, not looked at, then it can be like a really deep shock when it's forced upon you, so to speak, or when something else happens. And the sense of goodness, or the sense of ease and peace and stuff like that, freshness maybe, that has to do with being able to forget somehow. The mind is able to let go of memories that have to do with personal life. So it's not about like forgiveness, it's not about like forgiving people and seeing that they did something to me and then trying to forgive them. Like seeing separate people that have done something to me and now I'm here trying to forgive them. That's not what forgiveness means actually, in my understanding. Forgiveness has to do with the ending of certain mental processes that have to do with the sense of separation as a separate body, as a separate person. So like I said, it has to do with the forgetting the past, forgetting the personal past, forgetting. Nobody can forget, nobody can do that, but it can happen, appear to happen anyways, or unhappen. And to the ego, so-called ego, the sense of me, when time, like the past and future, when that starts to just be taken away from you, so to speak, or when that starts to vanish, to the ego sense, that feels extremely claustrophobic. It feels like space is being taken away also. Like to the ego, the past and the future, they are space also for that sense of self, the false sense of self. They are space for that to move in. And when the past, which is thoughts, images, and then the feelings associated with them, when those are vanishing, as long as the ego sense, like the more fundamental sense of separation is there, as an experiencer, experiencing the loss of that stuff, of the past and of the future, loss of the past and the future, that feels extremely claustrophobic. But when that ego sense goes away, when that also vanishes, then the real spaciousness is self-evident. This real space, like spaciousness, this infinity, this awareness or whatever, sky of awareness, this is that in which that false play or show appeared. And this is back to the movie screen metaphor. So the sky of awareness, I don't know if sky is the right term, but this empty, open, unrestricted awareness was never affected by the show of ego, of the me and my life. That was all noise in a way. But I'm gonna go grab a coffee, I think. I might go to a harbor nearby. There's a cafeteria. Actually, there are two, I think. It's pretty nice. It's not too warm and it's not too cold right now. Just perfect. Although this kind of a perfect is not actually perfect because this is transient, and the temperatures and the comfortability, that will not stay the same, of course. So in that sense, this is not perfect. This is part of the ever-changing show. But this show can be, the show can be about me and my life, about some ghostly character that doesn't actually exist. Or it can be just an expression of freedom, where there's no separate sufferer nor separate enjoyer actually, but there's still apparent beauty, at homeness, and that kind of stuff.